I'm Guy Magnum, and this is the Takeshi News Channel. And today I'm joined by our chaos expert from the University of the Word, Professor Blood.
Hello.
We're going to be talking about the in-depth state of Takeshi 4 now that we have a series of battles that have been going on, and just to kind of bring the kind of last half dozen or so games that we've played and put them into a kind of story to build that focus. Yeah. Okay, so just as a brief recap, Takeshi 4, 38th millennia, and we're talking about a planet that's been devastated for thousands of years, and the Mechanicus are gradually beginning to like re-terraform it. I don't know what you'd call it, reform it maybe. I'm not too sure.
Re-terraform.
That
seems fine.
It does, yeah. So we've got 5 massive, great big air scrubbers that have been going for like 1,000 years, and gradually they're beginning to kind of make the atmosphere just breathable enough so that they can get indentured workers on there and have them dig crap out of the ground.
Yep.
So
this is the whole purpose of it, right? It's mining
right.
and
The planet's dead. Nothing grows there, but at least with artificial atmosphere that eventually can move around the planet, they're able to get that kind
but just enough. Just enough so that people don't suffocate in their hovels.
Exactly.
This is the Imperium of Man, after all.
Absolutely, yeah. Can you breathe? Yeah. Everyone sounds like they've got chronic asthma.
Yeah, they do. So.
Yeah, exactly. So naturally, around these kind of big kind of air processing units, like little, there's a capital city of sorts, a typical like mega capital shanty, and it's getting bigger and bigger, and that kind of like the way that imperial organic infrastructure grows, which is just build something on top of something that already exists and put something underneath it to make sure it doesn't collapse.
But this is like nowhere. This isn't like Necromunda scale. We're not talking about hives and stuff.
That's right. It has the pompous name of being a hive.
Right.
That's like a traditional place where something once stood that was like this. But that's the aspiration, right? Is to have a something a little bit more kind of.
Is it good to aspire to a hive? They sound pretty dodgy to me.
It does. I wouldn't want to live. I'd want to be on some sort of Eden planet.
Yeah.
Where at least where the grass doesn't kill you, at least.
It's a pretty messed up universe, isn't it?
It certainly is, right? Death worlds, everything's going to kill you, right? If it's not the planet, it will be the Eldar, or something like that. Right. Okay. So what we're trying to portray then is that this kind of terraforming is in imperial terms in early days.
Mm-hmm.
So what we thought would be really cool would be to use that as a kind of point of the story for this arc of what happens in the Takeshi system to build up to 40k effectively. And it's not too distant that 40k is irrelevant either.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And actually, I don't think Takeshi 4 is in much of a better state by the time of the Haven storyline, really, is it?
It's not. It's still been mined.
Kind of like the Imperium.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you get so far that it just stagnates.
Yeah.
So I think the vague conceit on this is that some Chaos Warlord decided that if Takeshi 4 become a genuine ongoing concern, the amount of material that could be used to fund the war
tips the balance later down the line.
And it was something worth committing troops to. So this is all about the Chaos Forces trying to really disrupt this awesome planet with awesome material.
Awesome.
Yeah, exactly, right. So we're just going to dive in and talk about a recap on the games and what effect that sort of has on the planet. So we're talking like maybe sort of 50 to 100,000 people there. It's quite a lot of people. And what makes
it... I mean, it's at the same time quite small for a planetary population.
It certainly
is a colony.
It is, but the what makes it I kind of feel more like any other place would be the fact that they're in a very small geographic place. Because there's not a lot of living space.
So the fallout from any of these events naturally has a bigger impact.
That's right.
Yeah.
So in like Shantytown #1, we're probably looking like 20 or 30,000 people.
Yeah.
And then everything else is spread out around.
Do the shantytowns have names? We won't delve into this now, but in your mind, they should have names. Yeah.
I think the main shantytown is like called Hive Prime or something like this.
Okay.
Because that's it.
As you say, it's very conceited.
Yeah. It's like a 4-level shantytown. They've already got dregs, the underdregs of the shanty.
The underdregs. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So game 1 was, I think, a great introduction to
did we have any idea that this was where we were going when we played this game? I think we just wanted to do something interesting with a bunch of ex-overlords, right?
I think so, yeah. There was no massive super brainoid plan that had all this mapped out. It was an element of let it become like an organic thing, at least in my head anyway. It was definitely a chaos invasion.
Yeah.
And it had to be.
But I think that was just a hook for a game. And incidentally, this is why you won't be able to find... This one was never recorded, right?
It wasn't.
This game is not available.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. You just have to take off for the fact that it happened.
We'll fake it years later, like Stalin.
Yeah, exactly. We'll do a reenactment battle report.
Yeah.
Events may or may not happen according to this. So this was a fun game. It was more traditional in terms of 40k in a way.
Yeah. I think we've in our later games we've veered away from like command points and things like that a bit more. But this was like we're going to throw down some stratagems. Like that was definitely. Sort of year zero for this narrative game thing that we're engaged in now,
And like you said, it was 8th is still reasonably fresh, and we just come out of the Overlords, and it was time for the ex-Overlords to do what we do best, and it was like a party game.
Yeah.
In a way, wasn't it? It was just a get together.
Who was late that day? We're going to keep track of who's late. I think it was Kieran actually.
It was Kieran. Kieran was late. John was
on time.
Yeah. Massive props for Commissar Random, for getting everywhere on time lately.
He's been really good, hasn't he?
Yeah.
I worry about him.
I know.
He's on time.
It's because I send him a personal invite and tell him it's at 6 a.m. So get there for 10, right?
No. That just means he hasn't slept. Oh damn!
So it was a fun day, and there was like a lot of typical kind of 40k stuff going on for 8th. It was a reasonably straight up mission, in so much as you just had to break for a certain area.
It was getting off the board, and there was like a middle area. It wasn't like anywhere on the table edge, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Perhaps half in the middle.
I think it was. Yeah. And I think we played on an 8x4. So there was...
Yeah, it was an extended...
Yeah, it was like a 2 or 3 foot...
little area where you... Yeah, and this was the gate into one of these big refinery atmosphere processors, right? Yeah.
Air refinery.
Yeah.
I used the term refinery.
I keep saying refinery because this was like the angle on the day, and it's kind of developed into a bigger story since then.
That's right. It's a multitasking refinery. It does a bit of coal, a bit of smack, and air.
Delicious smack. And so we had this Imperial line set up to defend and I think to begin with, wasn't there a little like force field generator as well, right? Because to counteract the new deep strike rules, we didn't want the chaos stuff to just drop in and then be like right on the board.
Walk off turn.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we would have gone for that, but it's the sort of thing.
Yeah, but it worked pretty well, didn't it? Because it forced a null bubble.
It forced the null bubble so there wasn't any shenanigans.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it gave us this little side story
That's
where we had like a bastion out on the flank. and the Demon Prince led a little attack on it, and then these Ogrins Balgrins just like poured out the bastion and smashed his head in.
And then the big robots came, didn't they? They did a number on the Ogrins.
Yeah.
I think that
we worked Kieran's lateness into the story, which was pretty cool.
And we were quite flexible on the day as well. Things like happened, and you know, people died, things died, things didn't die, and it was a reasonably sort of standard game in many regards, but it gave us a great narrative hook for the next game, in so much as it wasn't an overwhelming victory in terms of objectives.
Yes, So we were, as the Chaos players, we were supposed to break through the lines, storm into this refinery, and what actually happened was the guard. I have my World Eaters, and they're just out of the campaign now because every single one of them died. They got this. Like if we're talking about cinematic moments, I said to John when we went out for a cigarette break, and I said. I don't care if I'm like out of this game in a turn or two, but as long as I get to storm that like Aegis defense line and just butcher all these guardsmen, which is exactly what happened. And I think the Inquisitor just like finished off the 6 berserkers who survived this run across the table. It was great.
It was very coming out of the kind of fog of early morning or whatever it was.
Yes,
it was just these barbarians at the Aegis defence line, right?
And Paul played it perfectly because he had his Night Lords and he hid behind the World Eaters all the way across the board. You've got these like blood-crazed madmen like leading the charge because they don't know anything else, and the Night Lords just like cowardly sneaking up in their wake.
It was very good, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was great.
So I think most of us played the role play. I think all of us played the role play pretty well. I think on the Imperial side, Dan, John, and I were all prepared to get wiped out, and you know, Kieran went after the tech. You just rushed across the no man's land.
There's only one way you can play World Eaters.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
And you were asking for like faction names and stuff after this. I was like, I can't do it. I can't think of a World Eaters faction name.
Yeah,
it's always like
Blood Rage,
the Skull Bloods or whatever. And I was like, okay, here's my narrative thing. These guys are so stupid that they can't think of a name for themselves, and now they're all dead anyway, so it doesn't matter. But the idea that the World Eaters can be used as a tool by the Night Lords and other Chaos factions was sort of prevalent in that.
So we ended up just getting the Raptors and the Bikes. They were the only things that kind of made it off the board. Yeah. Because like the Imperium were like dying on their feet, but they were doing a reasonable job at holding things back.
It was good attrition.
Yeah.
You know, we had the Pikeshi Rangers, we had Dan's Imperial Fists. Yeah. Great choice if you're going to hold the line,
exactly,
right? And I don't know the name of your Scion battalion or whatever, but so they were holding the line, and it was almost like perfect matched attrition by the end, except that the AdMech showed up when Kieran deigned to join us,
and it was cool, wasn't it? Because it goes to show that like you effectively was 1/3 short of your forces, but it felt balanced.
Yes,
and then that kind of element of Kieran arriving tipped it.
It definitely tipped it, but it left us where he was late onto the battlefield. It was like the AdMech had come for their own. But they just happened to be there, right? It's an unrelated attack to walk off with some like prescribed technology or something. It was great, and as you say, I think there was like a squad of Raptors and some bikers. They're actually fallen Dark Angels.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed that. So we could definitely get some Dark Angels in on this. That's somewhere we could go because.
So it was a great intro game, and I think the result of the Imperial guys were slaughtered, but we took a lot of chaos down. But the Night Lords sneaking by was pretty cool. Right?
Pretty Night Lords, right?
Yeah.
So it appeared that the line was held.
Yeah.
Some mysterious robots wandered off with something.
Yeah.
and then, you know, like 4 or 5 Space Marines
Yeah.
just happen to infiltrate this
That's it.
facility, yeah.
And you can imagine that's all you need, right? You can take some homing beacons, and before you know it, you've got some other things deep striking in.
Absolutely.
And it's just like the kind of Imperial workers just vanishing. It's like, Bob, where are you, Bob? And his kind of guts are spraying all over the wall, you know.
That's the Night Lords, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Some scary stuff.
There is, right? Yeah. So what we decided at this point would be almost like, what was the reason, I guess, for the assault?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even think we thought of that at the time.
No, I think our first thought was, okay, here's the next mission. We want to play some Zone Mortalis. Yeah. Let's play out what's happened once the Night Lords had infiltrated.
That's right.
And that ended up being the next big game that we played. But
That's
in between then,
we played a smaller
Zone Mortalis game actually.
Yeah, it was, wasn't
and
it?
this was our first back rep
Yeah.
for Pikeshi News.
And I think that's when you come up with the hook, wasn't it, about having the word bearers developing a virus.
Yeah, so this was like a 2-stage thing. As I said, I couldn't justify playing World Eaters in a narrative campaign. So I go, okay, I'll bring my word bearers in. You know, I have a faction, I have character names, I have ship names. There's something for me to like sink my teeth into here. And I was thinking about, like, in 40k, everything, to use like a Spinal Tap analogy, everything is like always turned up to 11, right?
Yeah.
So chemical warfare means like eradicate the whole planet with a life-eating virus, possibly one that a demon shat out.
Yeah.
Right? While skulls rain from the sky.
Yeah, everyone turns into a pustule. Type of thing, you know?
What about the idea, particularly for the word bearers, I think it works for the Alpha Legion as well, that you just debilitate a planetary population with diseases.
Yeah, and you might be looking for enslavement rather than eradication.
Yeah, exactly. We want those resources later on.
Yeah.
And certainly Chaos and the Imperium would count humans as resources, right? Like,
yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, workers that know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And stuff. And so we decided, I guess probably the refinery was an air refinery.
Mm-hmm.
And wouldn't it be cool if, like, having a central refinery that fed the other 4 on the planet, and what if we injected those with, you know...
You start to distribute these viruses through the mechanism that the AdMech are using to terraform.
So we decided that wouldn't it be cool if the Imperium got wind of something was up and led a daring raid on the inbound word bearer ship, a small vessel to try and get through the pickets.
This was just like a frigate or something that broke through. Yeah.
So we set up something that looked like a spaceship. The cargo hold, the bridge, and you can see the battle.
Yeah, it's nice to play. Yeah. I mean, just watch the battle report. For those sort of details, but it's nicely laid out by Steve.
That's my forte, laying out.
You know what? I will agree. I will completely agree.
That is my only skill in life. The ability to lay out a symmetrical looking board.
It's harder than you think.
It is.
Those Mortalis boards where everything is completely interchangeable blew my mind the first time I set one up, but it was a terrible Mortalis board.
Because you tend to snake from one point and it all goes round.
Yeah, you need some sort of picture in your head, and you need those open spaces.
But the game itself was so much fun.
Yeah,
it was one of these games of there was heroes and villains all the way throughout the game. With the super cultists and stuff.
So with the cultists, I want to talk a little bit about how we've done this more for the games that you and I have played as a one-on-one thing. When we want to use command points, whether that's a reroll or a stratagem, we've sort of had like a cooperative approach to it. It's not like, I really want to do this for that unit to do better.
Yeah.
It's like, what part of the story is this telling, right? So when the cultists were down to like 2 or 3 guys, I would sort of say to you, is it appropriate, do you think, to to do this, and then suddenly, you know, another mob of 20 shows up on the other side of the ship, to give that feel of like, what do they call them? Serfs.
Yeah.
Just all over the place.
Home advantage.
Yeah.
You know, they're there doing their kind of work, and then they kind of band together and form little ad hoc units, and they run at you with their spanners and las cutters. And
Yeah. And I think actually, did you use I think you used a reroll when the Inquisitor.
I did.
Deep struck on the bridge and then failed her charge, and we were like, well, that can't happen.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think that sort of cumulative effect is something pretty cool. That's you know, it's not what obviously what command points were designed for, but it feeds into us like, we need a hero at this point. So let's
make one.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think as well, it kind of ties in to, without getting sidetracked for too long, the whole narrative concept. That a narrative game is not necessarily just a game that you say is narrative because you're playing a funky mission.
Yeah.
You know, we wanted heroes and villains and amazing happenings, and we kind of got that in that game.
The feel of which you sometimes get, but it's quite serendipitous to get it, of playing a game of 40k and having it feel like reading a chapter from a Black Library book.
I think so. That's the goal, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
Because I mean, the amount of times you would read something and try and put that onto the tabletop, when perhaps sometimes it's easier to just imagine that you've created something that would be in the chapter rather than creating something from
absolutely.
But it was a very, very simple narrative that you were baking
virus cakes.
That's it, yeah. And it wasn't a full success, was it? I mean, it was
so we played it as like objectives, right?
That's right. Yeah.
I struggle to remember exactly. I think you cleared quite a few, but
not enough.
Not enough. Yeah.
So it was like, well, the mission's still a go.
There's
still enough virus to send down to the Night Lords.
Yeah.
You know, to plant in the appropriate places.
Oh, and I think the other interesting thing here that came up, we were a bit concerned that the end game wouldn't be like balanced anymore, and that was why some of your Fade characters showed up. We had like a little portal, chaos portal set up.
That's it.
And we didn't know going in what the portal was going to be. You know, you perhaps thinking like escape route if things went badly for the word bearers, the apostle would sling himself through, so he'd carry on in the story. But actually, he got murdered. He got murdered by the Inquisitor. She like heroically sacrificed herself to attack the bridge. And then we just decided on the hoof to bring like a couple of Fade Terminators into the story, which was pretty cool.
And it's kind of weird because it had a balancing effect on the game, for one, because it meant the game was it was either a narrow loss or a draw for Eros and Imperium. But what it meant was it's all suddenly these other faction turned up.
Completely different element.
Helped out and went away.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, I like that sort of mystery in stories that will unfold at some point in the future. Cause
I definitely think it will unfold. Yeah. There's history there, right, between my word bearer characters and the Fade, and we've played games across like various different timelines based around these characters, so there's more to be told from that story.
So.
But,
and I like
again, that's sort of like the mysterious end to a chapter, right? You know, you've got this point of view character who's like, I've had it now, right? But the Fade just materialise, get the job done, and then disappear again. You know, like what was that all about? Right?
And you see it in like to go Trekkie. There's like in Enterprise, there's this thing between Archer and the Andorian captain where it's like they're owing each other for saving each other. And it's like they can't leave a debt unpaid. I'm not saying it's necessarily that, but it kind of feels...
It's less honour with chaos, but there's patronage. There are these sort of ties that operate. You know,
whether it's necessity or influence or whatever. But regardless of that, it was the way we handled the command points, the way the Fade turned up and the outcome of the Chaos effectively winning the day turned out to be a perfect game in some regards, because it was a very simple narrative to add on to a fun game that played into the last game and then the next one.
It was out on its own, really.
Yeah.
It was introducing a new faction. I know the Scions were involved again. There's more where they came from, right?
Yeah. You never run out of Scions, let me tell you this.
But it suddenly became a nice little stepping stone chapter.
That's right.
And I think it sort of coalesced more of our ideas about the wider story and where it's going. Yeah.
So at this point then, the attack on the refinery, the Night Lords are sitting there. Meanwhile, whilst that's happening, the Inquisitor somehow was in two places at once and managed because she survived the first game.
The first game, yeah.
So it was conceivable that she was teleported away and off she went.
Absolutely.
So it kind of works.
I think it's fine.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
the Night Lords were flaying people in there for weeks while this was all
totally
going
enjoying
on.
it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. so that was pretty cool, and the Inquisitor met a gruesome end on the with the cyclist, wasn't it?
Yeah. So the sorcerer wandered off conveniently just before the attack happened, and then he came back to finish the Inquisitor off.
Yes.
So we kind of blagged it that he'd had a premonition.
I think so.
And he decided to stage a coup by proxy.
I think
by
it
just
was.
Sir, I need to go sort this out in the cargo hold. Yeah. Come on, lads. Left the apostle on his own to be murdered.
We'll come back. Was it latte you wanted? That was a really cool result. I think that and added to the story. And the weird thing was, it was a simple hook, but I think it added greatly to the that kind of bit of colour to the next chapter. I think.
I forgot about this one.
Yeah.
Game 3. Yeah.
So game 3 was also another game where it was sort of set up in preparation, not intentionally, but its storyline went into the...
This ended up interweaving with the in a way that some of the other ones were more like designed to be part of the story, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. I think this largely you wanted to play test the Blackguard, right?
That's correct.
You come up with some data sheets for these null characters.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And it just the idea of a prisoner exchange sounded really cool.
Yeah.
And again, we took 40k to a different place by setting a very different board up, a 2x4 board.
Yeah, it was tiny, wasn't it, this one?
It was. Yeah. And it was like trying to get that action from the get-go. So rather than it being a tactical positioning game, it was more about the cinematic effect.
There's never any mystery about where your units were going to go. Yeah, right. Exactly. They had a point A and a point B, and they were going to walk from one end of this tiny board to the other, and it was like, could I stop you from getting there? Yeah.
So, but it was interesting in so much as it was a play test. I videoed it, and I think that if it had turned out to be a complete bomb, I probably just would have tried again and videoed it again. We got something. Yeah. But fortunately, it turned out to be a really interesting game. With denying psychic powers for a few turns. Yeah. Because I don't even have no idea what the power levels were. I don't even know how balanced it was.
It was fairly small,
and it just felt like an ambush with,
It was an ambush that went like hideously wrong at first, because these Ogrin spawn things were just like, oh, I'm dead. And I think even a couple of the Marines did that, and then just this Terminator squad showed up, and again, this is one of these things, like you read about a Terminator squad in a novel, and they're ridiculous how powerful these things are. Yeah. And they've never really quite been able to live up to that. But like Thunderhammer Storm Shield perhaps being the exception that proves the rule because of like mechanics. Yeah. But in this, you really got that vibe of like, actually, like maybe like 2 Terminators is enough to massacre an army, right?
Yeah, and it felt like any episode of like The Arrow or something where the mooks ambush the good guys, and you must not let this get in the hands of the evil Lord Bob or whatever. And then evil Lord Bob turns up and does all horrific things on people.
Yeah. Oh yeah, except evil Lord Bob did show up and got in a little fight with the...
So the premise was just simple, right? It was like these Knoll Guard sending psychers to a black ship, but these were like 5 Primera psychers that were just too dangerous and potentially chaotic to let go, but at the same time too much of an asset to simply execute.
Yeah. The Black Guard are, for the record, it's like Takeshi's own sort of psycho defence forces, right?
That's right, and where, just as a side note, what I'm thinking is because we know there's something dark and insidious on Haven, there's something not quite right. I feel as if they're almost there to keep the secret hidden.
I wonder, and we're just like freeform ideas spitting now, but I wonder if it's not another Imperial institution sort of answer to the Seekers on Haven.
I think so.
There's a lot of like institutional friction in Pikeshi because it's like there's quite a unique history and set of circumstances there. I wonder whether it's like the Ministerum's way of
I think so.
Having their own.
So the Ministerum has effectively got the Seekers, and the
so the
kind of got
Administratum, right?
Have got like the Black Guard.
Yeah,
and it's like the same end, right? To try and deter this kind of demonic problem that's always been swept under a massive, great big rug.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a huge conspiracy at this point.
Yeah,
the extent of what's been going on there.
And I sort of see this kind of weird thing happening, that there's like perhaps an unusual amount of Psychers born on Haven, and an unusual amount of Knolls born on Haven.
It's very Zen.
Yeah, I think so. And they sort of go to the have become stormtroopers, and they're plucked and put into these special units.
Yeah.
But that's their detail, and that's their job, and. It's all.
So this game was just another day at the office for these guys, really,
it
right? The ongoing tithe to the black ships,
and we even set it up to look like a clandestine delivery, right? It's almost like it was done in the arse end of a cargo dock in the middle of the night, just to get these things quietly.
Yes,
off the planet.
Now this I love that. We were talking a little bit about some other films and stuff recently. I love that grubby, it's just another day at the office vibe. It's sometimes in sci-fi, whether it's like Blade Runner or the very first Alien film, right? Yeah. It's not all, the Prometheus, flashy digital computers, these grand missions. It's just like some arseholes going mining, right? Like that vibe makes for a really cool little story, I think.
I think
and I think we got that from this game.
It certainly felt very much like it was just, not plebs, but it was just your bog standard guys doing what they always do in a rather, off the beaten track situation, which is probably not that unusual for them.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, things then went askew, right?
Because word bearers.
Because of word bearers. So again, that was I kind of wanted the Imperium to lose, and like with all these games, I certainly didn't try to lose. I wanted to win it, but it really fit the storyline because you escaped with a number of Psychers.
Yeah, I think this is another thing we discussed briefly. Going into something like this, you kind of need the invader or whatever your angle is, kind of need them to win a few games at the start just to get the story.
It's not much of an invasion, is it?
If the Imperium had just won horribly 3 games in a row, we probably would have to scrap this and go back to the drawing board, right?
I think as well.
I guess like round up all the Orc players.
Okay, Eldar, you're the only one that can possibly shenanigan this week. But it's with very little manipulation, we've managed to get lucky.
I think so.
With the outcome, and it's been great because I think everyone has bought into this role play aspect. You know.
And all three of these initial games, they gave us three distinct little narrative ideas.
That's right.
That actually feed into the next big get together with John and Kieran, Paul and Ian. The next one.
That's right. Yeah.
And they were quite distinct at first, and then these three games, and they just gave us these three different ideas going into the next one.
So it's, I guess, just as we're halfway through these 6 games that we've played, it's fair to say that the invasion has just started, but word bearers are doing a lot of things behind the scenes, gathering these powerful psychers, preparing the virus. They haven't really shown themselves on the battlefield.
En masse.
Yeah,
I think that's what I was going to get to. Like, we played like one big game, and then not really seen a development of like an invasion, but it's the various sort of sneaky tricks that are being played out. And again, I think we were quite fortunate that they were kind of minor victories each time.
I think so. Yeah, that really helped, didn't it?
As much as we said, like we kind of hoped the Imperium would lose to get up to kickstart our storyline. Yeah, it was sort of close enough for it was each of these games. It was
convincing chaos presences on the planet.
Yeah,
but not overwhelming so that everyone becomes chaos overnight.
It was, and I think that fed into the more covert stuff, right? You've got to be a bit devious.
I think so.
To pull this off. Yeah.
So it was a pretty decent setup with these 3 cool games. All a more traditional game, these 2 little scenario things, and then we had the next game where we were actually inside this air refinery, and the virus had been delivered. So it's worth mentioning the army that you decided to bring with you because it was unusual, right?
Right. So for game 4, I had a sorcerer, I had 3 of those psychers from game 3. Just lifted out of the Imperial Guard Codex.
That's it.
That was it. That's what I brought.
Yeah. So and it was very fitting, wasn't it? Because Paul played his Night Lords in character. He brought his bikes and his raptors.
We had the bikes and the raptors who'd infiltrated. I can't remember what else he brought. So he may have just bulked up some of those squads and things like that.
I think, but he kept to the story. Kieran tagged along with some data gathering robots and bits and pieces.
Who again, I think more by luck than judgment. And was Kieran late again?
He was, yeah.
Stop being late, Kieran. As a result of that, once again the AdMech were like off in their own little corner. And you've got this vibe of like Dark Mechanicum guys just getting up to stuff and no one really knows what it is.
Yeah.
But they sort of tied down the Inquisitor during this key battle.
And it was a crucial thing, really, because the Inquisitor and the mob were quite tough and reasonably decisive. But again, it's like just the way the board was set up. So I've got like a 6x4, and we played on an 8x4. And we made up the difference with these tiles that represented outside.
Yeah.
And the Imperium set up on these tiles and broke through these kind of erected force fields. And then the kind of game started. And the Inquisitor was in a tiny little corner on their own.
Yeah.
John's Guard and Ian's Templars sat up on...
fairly central. I think John had like a thrust down the flank that didn't really get anywhere because Guard, right?
Yeah, exactly.
There was lots of running and screaming.
And we even had like a kind of traditional walkway in the middle with like an objective on.
Yeah, so very Star Wars-esque.
It was,
right?
wasn't it?
The bridge over the bottomless engineering cavern.
For no apparent reason.
You wouldn't. No point at all. But
it felt really cool. Like just the way the board was set out, it had the look as if we were actually genuinely fighting in the place that we said it was.
Yeah.
And we had all these consoles around the complex.
Yeah.
And that the job there was really to hold those and put the virus in.
Yeah, just start to inseminate the various cities, right? Yeah.
And that's
Shanties.
The shanties, yeah. and that's when the kind of Black Templars entered the story as well. So we had a new story arc coming in there as well, where, you know, desperate times, right? All the Imperial Guard and Sirens around that complex are pretty much dead.
Mm-hmm.
And there weren't anything...
Even that little Imperial... I think what we can imagine, right, Black Templars are Imperial Fist's successors. Yeah. So the Imperial Fists who were guarding the facility, it was like a squad, right?
Yeah.
I think Dan probably had 2 or 3 squads on the board, but you get that feel of like just a tiny Astartes presence.
That's
there.
right.
But they were able to like
get the beacon
off, and then you know the successors were honour bound to respond.
In the warp, there's a sign of a fist.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
The Black Templar saw it and come Templaring in. And it
what's this witchcraft?
You have none of this here. and it turned...
And how cool was their intervention in this?
Oh, it was decisive.
It was amazing.
Yeah. Because there was all those corn demons on the bridge, and the Templars like smashed them.
Yeah. So I should elaborate on my list being like 3 psychers, right? Because obviously I have more points than that. But basically the idea was the sorcerer was there infiltrated on his own with the virus, and then he would just like open a warp rift.
Yeah, that's
so
it.
And I was just rolling, as you do in summoning now, see what my power level was, and then plucking something out of my case and throw down. And it ended up being, I think, 20 bloodletters or 10 bloodletters and a demon prince.
I think it was
to make up my army. Just because I happened to roll that, you got that chaotic element to it. And there was this great cinematic moment. Again, the Night Lord's doing the thing. There was a force field right on the one end of the bridge, and the Templars were on the other side, and these bloodletters were like baying at trying to get through, like, and the Night Lord shot out the force field
to help you.
Yeah.
I'm dubious about their help.
Oh, this is the Night Lord.
They're always behind you.
They're always hiding. Yeah. I think actually in the end, my demons got fed up of Paul and his Night Lords in this game and left them to die at one point. But the bloodletters like poured across this bridge. The force field went down just in time, and in terms of like dice rolling mechanics, I got so lucky with it was like 20 hits out of 20 and maybe like 19 wounds. Yeah. And I was like, that feels really bad. What happened was these 3 guys with storm shields at the front of the bridge, just like, hold the line, brothers! And Ian pulled off every single one of these saves and then proceeded to butcher the demons. It was so Black Templars.
It was brilliant, wasn't it? It was, because like Kieran and I had basically fought ourselves into a stalemate. And it took ourselves out of the story. I got completely bogged down in that. And all the action happened between the Chaos Forces and the Guard and the Black Templars, really.
Yeah.
But that was an amazing scene.
That was great. And it's one of those things where, at the time, you're like, how did that happen? Like, because like the sort of average gamer in you is like, dice shouldn't do that. Oh my god, that's what's happened. And then you reflect on it and you're like, actually, that was such a cool storyline for something like that to happen. It was awesome.
And it was a great intro, and it felt as if they just didn't turn up and went mad. They were just they actually turned up and did something heroic,
really heroic. Yeah,
and it was a great. Felt like a really story-driven.
But who were the biggest heroes?
It was the Guard, really, wasn't it? They were amazing.
Because after that, I mean, the Templars. It wasn't just that; they got a lot of stuff done. The Templars, they really blunted this assault, but finally the Demon Prince got the better of them. But not without taking quite a few wounds himself. And as he stumbled through the fortress, John's guard fixed bayonets and charged that Demon Prince.
And took, was it last wound?
And took it, last wound. And I think there was like an officer and maybe half a guard squad, but they cleared the corridors, at least on their side of the bridge.
That's right.
It was such a fitting way to end. We're like,
And what was the score? It was like, wasn't it?
I'm gonna say
4-2.
I'm gonna say 3-2. I think there were 5.
Yes, 5. It was a narrow chaos victory.
It was a very narrow victory, and it was like because remember there was an assassin who came after my sorcerer. He was way back.
Yeah.
As a word bearer does, right? You know, doing all this stuff, twirling his moustache. And then this Calidus assassin just popped up.
And he got psyched out by the Primaris.
One of his own psychers tried to like smite and blew his own head up. And in the like psychic maelstrom, everyone died except this like crippled, nose bleeding, eye bleeding sorcerer. Yeah. And he just like stumbled onto the bridge when everyone else had died and got the virus into the objective that swung it in the end.
And it was so cool. So what we ended up with is in the kind of second game, the virus was maybe not as potent or not as plentiful as it could have been, and then you wasn't able to distribute it everywhere. So it kind of sets up the scene for beyond where we've been quite nicely, because now we're in a position where things are falling apart, but it's not like everyone's got Ebola.
Yeah.
You know,
which I think is definitely what we. That's how we saw this, right? Yeah.
And without, we were fortunate there wasn't any like interventions needed to make that storyline happen. It's just the way the game played out.
Yeah, I mean it's necessarily harder to intervene where there's like 6-7 players, right? Than if you're just telling a story on a smaller scale. So it worked perfectly.
And it was a fun,
great day, great game, and
it was pretty cool.
Roll a 6. Ooh. La 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 la. La la la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la.
Was gonna play all nice, but then I'm that guy. Wanna bring no hardcore spam, but then I'm that guy. My friend is still messed up, and I know why.
Why, man?
'Cause I'm that guy.
'Cause I'm that guy. 'Cause I'm that guy.
La 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 la. My win-lose draw ratio is really quite high. Because most of my opponents are only knee-high.
9 years old?
It wasn't a good game unless they cry.
Boo-hoo.
'Cause I'm that guy. 'Cause I'm that guy.
'Cause I'm that guy.
La 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 la. I stick my nose in your game, though it makes you sigh. I take great joy in being right, my oh my.
I'm always right, man.
La la la. Actually is my favourite word. Do you know why?
Why?
'Cause I'm that guy.
'Cause I'm that guy. 'Cause I'm that guy.
La 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 la. You think you're a Warhammer god and we should call you sire. But just walking up a flight of stairs makes you perspire.
Whew.
La la la. You breathe through your mouth, then your BO's die.
Pooey.
'Cause you're that guy. 'Cause you're that guy. 'Cause you're that guy. La 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 la. My hair is very long, but my fringe so high.
Sounds like a greasy mullet, man.
And my waist is just so big that my trousers are high. Wear black socks and sandals. Do you know why?
Why, man?
'Cause I'm that guy. 'Cause I'm that guy.
'Cause I'm that guy.
La 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 la. I got crumbs spilling from my beard onto my thigh. I got ketchup on my Three Wolves tea and novelty tie. I can't eat food without a mess. Do you know why?
Why, man?
'Cause I'm that guy.
'Cause I'm that guy. 'Cause I'm that guy.
La 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 la. I'm 30 years old without satisfying my desire. I live with my mum and any action backfires.
Shame.
I say I have a girl, but I'm a big fat liar. 'Cause I'm that guy.
'Cause I'm that guy. 'Cause I'm that guy.
I was gonna play all nice, but then I'm that guy. Wasn't gonna bring the hardcore spam, but then I'm that guy. My friend is still messed up, and I know why.
Why, man?
'Cause I'm that guy.
'cause I'm that guy, 'cause I'm that guy. La 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 la.
Then we jump back to again. It's like a side story.
So as we recap this, this one doesn't necessarily fit anywhere, but it's a picture. It's a sense of the wider picture of what's going on Pikachu 4, and I think looking at the way that games 2 and 3 developed and all these things fed into the big game in Game 4, I think there's going to be something to come out of this.
I think so, yeah. Because like one of the overarching concepts, I think, of what we're perhaps trying to do is play these games and not worry about the narrative in the bigger picture necessarily, because we'll try and summarise it all at the end of the year, where we say, well, you know what, we'll try and finish this story arc off, so that you know, and all the things that we do, no matter how kind of odd they may seem, will somehow bring us back.
Absolutely. Look, try and tell the story of World War II, right? But do it with some of these scale things. You can't. It is literally an impossible thing. Yeah. So to talk about conflict on the kind of scale that we are necessarily in 40k, and again it can be like that Spinal Tap conflict. It can be ludicrous.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
You're going to miss a lot of details, but I guess what we're doing is trying to give as many little snapshots of little things that can happen,
and sort of extrapolate out.
Yeah.
If this happens in one place, it's going to be happening elsewhere. Yeah. So what we were trying to tell in a way that the previous games were for chaos. They won the games, but it wasn't a decisive victory in any case. But perhaps things are not always as obvious and as simple as they seem.
Yeah.
So
it was the machinations that's were working. Yeah.
And as this kind of Pikachu 4 doesn't have sparse population, it's certainly not diverse in a geographic sense. The idea is that it's conceivable that Chaos Forces could make planetfall, set up covert bases, because no one's looking.
You can hide armies everywhere.
Yeah,
right? It's like Doom.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nobody's looking for that. No one expects to have something in place. So what we wanted to do was tell the story of how that could be, what it would look like. And it was almost like a kind of 2-horse town airstrip with just a load of Chaos Fighters.
Yeah, there were some like ruins on the outskirts that I sort of pictured as like a settlement whenever the planet was ruined originally, right? You know, and then there was just like a very, very simple runway, some flyers, some flat guns,
and some hastily put up prefab
style. Yeah,
thing,
exactly.
You can imagine that when the dust storms get the worst, the cold is going inside, and the Marines just stand there thinking, "What are you worried about? We've got."
I don't know, like with chaos, like they just leave them out there, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. They take their hats off and get a kind of nice abrasive.
Yeah.
But it was pretty cool because it's clearly the Imperium are not as stupid as
we make them out to be.
They've got satellites, they've got observations, and they've seen that these little pockets of things that shouldn't be there. You know, perhaps they sent out some droids. And the droids come back with a fuzzy picture.
I mean, it wouldn't be a droid, right? It would be like someone's spinal column.
A brain in a can. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was the Auntie Flo from the kind of like Spine Up.
Yeah.
And we sort of discovered that there was these guys were there, they were doing their thing, and they were getting, preparing for some, a bigger assault.
They got wind of something bigger coming, right?
That's right. Yeah. And it was like a suicide mission.
Yeah.
And the forces I particularly picked were just, everything was like generic. There wasn't like a named character. It was just one platoon of Scions.
Yeah.
To assault into this unknown area.
I think the same for me when I set up. I think I used maybe like one of my Dark Apostle models, but it was one I don't use as much, so it just looked like some junior officer in charge of like a handful of Space Marines, and then mostly just like slave labourers, stroke cultists, whatever you want.
Yeah, you know, maintaining the planes, keeping the runway clear, guard duty, all the crap that the Space Marines would probably feel was beneath them.
Yeah, but you need like 10 of them to look after the place. You know? Yeah.
Well, like a custodial type of feel to it. And the forces felt very in line with the story.
Mm-hmm.
It did feel genuinely like it was just a custodian force there, and they started to get in the planes and fly off and destroy something at some point in the future.
Yeah.
So the mission was quite simple. It was like teleport. Everything was dropped in by the Imperium, and we were looking at, can we sabotage as many of the aircraft as possible? Because outside of the planet there was like warp activity that was stopping the fleet getting there, and you know there's not an air force on Pikeshi 4 because it's a dust bowl. Yeah. Right. So
this is your only chance to
try and level
that air superiority field. Yeah.
And it was interesting.
It was a really interesting game. Like obviously the Scions dropping in, Deep Strike's not got the risks that it used to.
Yeah.
So they were able to be very brutal as you'd expect, but it's that staying power, right?
Yeah.
Like you hit hard. They blew up a number of the jets, crippled like the air defences, and then just sort of started to wither. As the attack went on.
Yeah. And it really demonstrated not only there was a couple of moments where it demonstrated so superbly the kind of game mechanics in 8th with the way things work, and you can do multiple things with the unit, and the unit feels like a real unit.
Yeah, can I as an aside, can I say how much I love that?
Yeah.
No longer having to be like, I really need to use that melter gun. I guess these 9 guys are useless for a turn.
Yeah.
Or I really need to help that unit that's in combat. I guess I can't shoot the one surviving Space Marine who's right next to me because I need to charge into this combat. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
It's
so much better.
It's so fluid, and it just builds the narrative itself, right? But you know, in moments in that game, you could really see the difference between 7th and 8th. And how it helps when you're trying to achieve something like this.
Yes, definitely.
And it also showed the difference between cultists and Scions. So when the Scions landed, they did a number on the cultists, as you'd expect, but then it also showed the difference between the Scions and the Space
Marines. Yeah.
And it was really nice because I think the only thing that got off the board was the Vendetta.
I think that was it, right? It just flew off.
Everything else was
we had second waves.
This
was an interesting thing. We wanted to have this staged thing, so like the attack happened, the word bearer's officer just started legging it across the airfield as everything was blowing up and like throwing cultists in the way as more Scions.
He got on the Morse code thing.
But basically your Vendetta and some drop sentinels came in as like the second wave once you'd set up a perimeter inside the airfield, and then presumably somewhere in orbit was my Chaos Lord, the guy who
on board the frigate.
Evil Barb or whatever you called him for Game 3. The guy who'd stolen the Psychers. He sort of came down and tried to
he did a good
and in fact did defeat what was left of the attack.
So those combi bolters are awesome.
Yeah, man, Terminators.
and Terminators are genuinely good again. I mean,
I think so. I think like maybe in bigger games, we're off the beaten track with that. But I think certain types of games they really shine, and this was one of them.
And what was interesting about this, it was a 6x4. There wasn't an awful lot of scenery, but then it wasn't a massive game either.
No, it was very sparse. By intent. To give that feel. Yeah.
And it kind of felt like a scene from a movie, some sort of Green Beret style thing going on, and it was an awesome game to play.
Mm-hmm.
Traditionally, the Imperium took a kick in, but in the narrative, they managed to take out 2/3 of the space.
4 out of 6
Yeah, 4
targets. Yeah, yeah.
So.
So again, I think this is an important thing to state. Like, as you say, traditionally, the Word Bearers Reserves got there, and it was like a tabling. The Vendetta flew off, so it became a tabling at that point. But we knew coming in that the Imperium was setting up these suicide missions.
Yeah.
So that was always going to be the outcome.
Yeah.
And in fact, it became quite possible to say this was an Imperial victory.
Yeah.
Even if
Yeah.
like a narrative mission from the core rulebook would have ended with a chaos victory because of tabling.
That's right. Yeah. And it's again, it was another example of a very narrow outcome that is not inconclusive. It's inconclusive, but sort of decisive in a way, because you've now got a diminished air threat, which means that the Chaos Forces can't just fly in and
whatever their plan was
is
massively destroyed. And again, we extrapolated that these kind of attacks were taking place all over.
That's right. Yeah, wherever there was.
There's always more science where
Absolutely,
those guys came from.
So and it's interesting because like the Scions in particular have been a disposable force, and I kind of like that. The lack of character almost plays into this in some ways is their character, because when they go through the Scholar Progenium thing, they're just mindless.
Yes,
robots.
It's like identity erasure. Right?
Yeah, so it's really cool that there's almost like an infinite supply of them.
Yeah,
and they just go in and they do what they're told.
Well, isn't this the Imperium?
It is.
This is this like faceless fascist empire, right?
Yeah, it is. And it feels as if we're getting something out of this that's like, the more that we play and the more we think about it and the outcomes, it's easy to build that into the canon. In the setting, we're going against some of the rules. We're building our own things. We're going against some of the missions. We're doing things a little bit ad hoc, but we seem to be building the right picture in terms of the setting that we're playing.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is kind of interesting, and it's happening quite naturally as well.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. But this was a different game. It was vaguely Planet Strike.
Wasn't it?
It was largely.
Those rules actually exist now, right?
Yeah. So it was proper plan.
Chapter approved.
That's right.
Okay,
Yes, that's where you got the closer deep strike in. And
I am so like out of the loop with what the actual rules are. Yeah. I'm just enjoying playing it.
I'm struggling to read rules full stop. I literally skimmed through Planet Strike. I thought that sounds about right.
Yeah.
And it turned out it was just about right.
Yeah.
So this is less about bringing this narrative into what we've done already, but it's almost like the scene in the film where they want to portray a planet under attack, and they show snippets of all these different conflicts happening.
I think you could do this. Something akin to a montage.
Yeah.
Not like a sports training montage.
Yeah.
Where you get like 2 seconds of it.
Exactly.
But something like that. Even like an opening scene. Just to give you a bit of action, first chapter or a first scene of a movie, give you a bit of action and something exciting straight off the bat.
So it's kind of what we're trying, again, just to reiterate an overall plan, is to have connected games, ongoing saga, but also brave enough to throw in things that don't fit with that, in the knowledge that we can build it up into something at the end.
This will either just fit in somewhere, or, as I say, it's all sort of background detail, right? It's all bits and pieces that tell this wider picture.
So it'd be nice, when people play a game, if it's in the setting and you get an outcome, there's just more kind of background. Thing. It doesn't have to be a clever related thing. It's just a cool game.
In fact, I think there is a danger to like overthink and try and slot
I
everything
think
in,
so, yeah.
and make it all this like elaborate. You know, we're not writing a novel.
We're not.
We're just gaming and having some fun, and then
Well,
like a story is developing out of
yeah.
that. So these kind of things are fine, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Now, on our latest big get together, one of the things that we were interested in doing would be a land train. It's something that Paul and I have always spoken about.
Yeah, I know Paul was excited to do this
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
And I've always wanted to build something that you know, like a kind of, you know, people running along the top of trains and all this type of stuff. But it's like a whole board for that is like excessive.
Yeah.
But luckily, the Zone Mortalis board.
Build your own Zone Mortalis.
Yeah, and it was
done.
an unusual setup.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it was just a strip of scenery.
So it was like 3 or 4 Mortalis tiles long?
Well,
no, longer than that, right?
It was 6 foot long.
Yeah.
But it was
just one tile each.
It
of
was-
your tile, yeah, they're smaller than like the...
Yes, yeah. So it was like in some places it was only a foot wide. In other places it was 2 foot to give that look as if the train's not just a tube.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
We had a bridge, a cockpit, a driver's cabin, whatever you want to call it, some sort of special cargo thing at the back, and in the middle the entry point.
Kind of docking station, right? Like grav thing going on as the game unfolded.
So we had some custom rules to handle that, which was early on Saturday morning.
It was really fun when I realised that the rhino had like overshot by about 40 inches, and I was like, wait, someone explain the maths to me again, because I wouldn't have done that if I understood numbers.
And I think Paul suffered from addition bleed on the spawn.
His spawn should have ran at it from the front. Because he just had these 2 spawn just like trying to catch up with the train. Those poor yeah, because he thought I don't think he thought they moved 12. But
it was 7, wasn't it?
It's a big difference. How with variable movements, how slow spawn have got compared to last time.
And the idea is because we had just a series of basic guards, like on the board. With the black guard holding the null zone where the demon was and helping to support the bridge. And it worked out quite nice because it meant that the superior chaos forces were coming in dribs and drabs. But it kind of balanced out.
I mean, I think I intentionally held back my Terminators. Paul just like went straight for it with the Terminators, which was uncharacteristically brave of the Night Lords to sling themselves in there,
because they soaked up a lot of fire, didn't they?
And it only occurs to me now that I think if we'd have had like the Night Lords and the Word Bearers Terminators back to back, it might have pushed it too far one way. I think I was being cowardly, but in retrospect what it gave us was probably more of a decently balanced fight on the train.
Because if 2 squads landed in the middle, I think it would have just been a progressive slaughterfest to each end,
and not quite really with the narrative. I mean, Paul made a push for the bridge to stop the train, basically, so his spawn could catch up.
Exactly.
And the Demon Prince, who was held in the sort of null zone down the other end, is another ongoing Fade character, right? So I took the view that the Word Bearers specifically were there to bust Cham out of jail. So I just like went for that with like a sneaky teleport in a hidden corridor rather than throwing my Terminators into the fire, which probably was the better choice.
I think
storyline wise as well. So
and it also meant there was a focus for Kieran's forces at the back and John's forces at the front, where it sort of created 2 separate little wars going on.
I loved the dynamic of John having the CO on the train and Kieran refusing to listen to orders in the chaos and the fog of war.
And it it was a great because I was playing the role of like a not that he needed a gem, but I was just enjoying the non-participation in this and seeing how the Guard were doing pretty well.
Yeah, they did.
But then I think Chaos got like 3 rhinos on in like in either one turn or
I got
2
both
turns.
of mine, and then I think Paul got all 3 of his the turn after that.
So all of a sudden there was a Chaos explosion on this train.
Yeah.
And it was then looking really dire for the Imperial
Yeah,
Guard.
I mean, if that had been like, if there were like some more Guard on the train, I think they would have just been overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But luckily, the Imperium once again had those heroic Black Templars, Dukes of hazarding it.
Yeah.
Like, balls to the wall. The Storm Raven dropping in.
Yeah.
Shooting everything it could through the middle of the train. Yeah. Like missing everyone, actually, the turn it showed up. Like drunk Black Templar pilot gunning at nothing. But then the guys inside just like stormed in and really like cleared house again.
Yeah.
They've been really impressive.
They have, and Ian changed tack this time because in his first game they were very elite feelings, all power weapons and
like a big sword brethren squad, which isn't a unit anymore, I don't think. But I think he was playing Vanguard vets.
That's right.
To give that feel. Yeah.
And this time it was just a Crusader squad, wasn't it? With
I think there was like a couple of power weapons and stuff in there, but it was mostly just chainswords, which actually got all the work done.
Yeah, and it goes to show, doesn't it, when you've got an assault unit that can put out more attacks, then throwing dice at Marines works.
Yeah.
Or having specialist weapon works. It's when you've just got neither of those.
Yeah, it is. I said this during the bat rep. It is so noticeable now that if a unit isn't designed for assault, don't bank. Like, you can charge 3 guardsmen, don't bank on getting anything done. If that unit isn't like an assault unit anymore, you know.
There was quite a few little combats that went on.
Yeah. I mean, of course, like it's a wider issue. Again, we won't go into the reads on this one, but you don't get bogged down anymore because things fall back. Yeah. So it wasn't like, I guess I didn't get that done. I'll be fighting those 3 guardsmen for the rest of this game. Yeah. So that's quite handy. But
so it was interesting because we just wanted to play this, but I won't say too much until the next battle report. But our next kind of big get together is going to be almost like a bringing together of this train game.
Yeah.
And the
ongoing
storyline.
Yeah.
So it seems a bit kind of random, but there's actually, it wasn't.
This involved characters. It involved like factions that have been involved, but it's a totally different storyline. In fact, isn't it?
It is.
I suppose we're dipping into the Blackguard Knolls and the ongoing sort of fight against the demonic, which I think is something we want to ramp up as the year goes on.
Definitely,
But you got to pace that just right.
Because that's the thing is you're in Imperial territory, and the demonic is the resource it just keeps giving.
Yeah.
You don't need to feed it. You don't need to give it clothes. You don't need to make sure it's got a personal DVD player for downtime. It's just there, right? Literally cut out the air. But this game was a lot of fun. There was lots of ups and downs in terms of the way the game ebbed and flowed, but it will move on to another game.
I'm really excited about the next game, and like you, we won't say too much now because bat reps and everything, but we're going quite non-traditional
we are,
for the next one, and I think it's going to be really exciting.
I think so, and I think it will show a different side to another, the weapon in the Chaos Arsenal that's perhaps a little bit more subtle and a little bit more sneaky-like, rather than the, to get away from the world eater idea.
Frothing at the mouth and running at the barricades with an axe that's a chainsaw.
Absolutely, definitely.
I
I sort of see this as a game that might be just to highlight perhaps the opposite of the Imperium and
which I think is always is the most interesting facet, is the way that the two sides in this Great War are just, they're the same thing.
Yeah,
exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was a great fun game. I think the mechanics broadly worked.
The mechanics broadly work. And I will say, John and I had a discussion about this. Mm-hmm. I think what we should have aimed for, in retrospect, we couldn't have known, was 2 games out of this. Act 1, the chase. Act 2, battle on the train.
Yeah, that was.
We had this kind of cool, the rhinos were coming at the train from different angles. We didn't know. You as GM would roll to see how fast the train was moving, and then we'd have to account for that. Yeah. Sometimes the rhinos would overshoot. Sometimes they'd careen off the side while they were trying to pull into the grav harness and stuff like that. That was really fun, but there wasn't a lot of action during that stuff. And I think perhaps if there'd been chimeras, maybe weapon systems
more of
on the train. That could have been a cool first act for this story.
Because we tried to set that up with. So I deployed the Imperial forces. Right, and I tried to get the idea of door gunners with those auto cannons.
We had a bit of that. That was happening.
But they got nacked pretty quick by the turn. But you're right. Some automated weapon systems might have been cool. The kind
some different chase elements, and like you said, actually, it goes back to ideas that you and Paul were knocking around years ago. People running around on top of the train. I had some raptors involved in the chase. It would have been pretty cool if they could have just perched on the train. And used that to get in its slipstream. And
I think you're right. In sort of retrospect, would have been cooler. And I wonder if maybe what we could do is if we sacrificed the movement element and had that as a separate game, you could almost put down a 2 slim boards side by side, so you could have a top and an inside.
Definitely. Definitely.
And if you had them right, you could easily visualise that hole there takes you down into there. And that might be a pretty cool way of being.
I think it'd be cool just to still give that a go.
Yeah, I think so.
Just as a game.
I think
fun
so.
With.
But it was an interesting game. It was a
it was a great game. It was just one little thing that we thought of afterwards.
I think you're right. If to make that chase thing a little bit more interactive.
But because it was a cool mechanic once we
figured out.
Once I'd had 3 coffees and worked out using geometry how I could approach the train. It was really cool.
So I think that it leads nicely into what we're going to be doing next, and perhaps even a few games in that series of what we can't talk about. We're not very.
We'll come to that, but. One thing I was quite surprised at, I was convinced when you took the decision to GM this, that the Fade were going to show up again.
They almost did. Right. Okay, so here's the thing. Right, they almost did. Because I was thinking, I was torn, and in my head I was mentally rolling dice. Would they show up and execute Cham, or at least send him back to the warp, or would they turn up and try and free him to do this? And what had happened in the end that made my mind up is to not intervene, is that Kieran really wanted his force field down. So he could charge the Null guys and just abandon guarding Cham. And I thought to myself, okay, I can see if that's what you want to do, but there's got to be a risk to this. So genuinely, it seemed like it was a preordained thing, but it was genuine. There were 3 force fields he had to roll, and he pressed the wrong button, and he released Cham. But what still surprised me is they gave Cham an absolute kicking.
They did, and it's largely Storm Shields, to be honest. And
the chainsaw.
I took the decision to throw all of his attacks at the Inquisitor because the Demon Prince would be angry
He would
at the person who imprisoned him. So I killed that Inquisitor like 4 times over by not splitting my attacks. So that did play into it a bit. Yeah.
So that was.
And the officer had like a thunder hammer and stuff. So you can imagine these are gnolls. He wasn't able to use his psychic powers. It was fine that they banished him. So
that was the decisive thing, because I was almost ready to run upstairs and get the fade.
Do you know what? I love what the ending we had. Mm-hmm. It would also have been just as cool if Kieran had lowered his shield, confidently strode out to finish off the last of the word bearers, and then just like a little kill team of. You could maybe like some Fade Terminators teleport on, raise the shield again, and then just like break out the Demon Prince, right? Yeah. But it was pretty cool.
So it was. So what I ended up with is a scenario I didn't imagine ending up. Well, it's not I couldn't have imagined it, but in my mind it was Chaos either rescue the Demon Prince or they don't, and they stop the train and they don't.
Yeah.
So what we kind of wanted to go for, this idea that those were the outcomes that decided the kind of how slender...
The degree of victory, right? Yeah.
But killing the Demon Prince...
But actually the Demon Prince was banished.
Yeah.
Everyone on the train died. The Black Templars wrecked the bridge because that drunk pilot ended up flying onto the train and unloaded his weapons down there.
Exactly.
The Templars were the only survivors, and John's cowardly CO, who hid in the corner in the refinery while his men killed the Demon Prince, the other Demon Prince, right? So he was like airlifted out with a report.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and
the train was just a wreck with no one left on it but like a servitor. Driving it mindlessly,
So I'll print up get up a new map. But what I imagined is this train was coming north towards the kind of capital city, for better use of a term. But it wasn't going to stop there. It was going to stop before that.
Okay.
So the idea is that it was going to stop at this kind of out of town.
Super secret inquisitorial base number 683.
Exactly, but now I just imagine this corpse-ridden train on autopilot turns up at the main terminus.
Yeah.
And there's like it's loaded with supplies. It wasn't just the Demon Prince; there's other supplies.
Yeah.
And that's
he's like the secret crate. The Holy Grail, right? He's the secret crate in amongst all the beans and rice that were on the normal cargo ship. Yeah.
So where this, I think it's the cargo, is where this mission kind of ties into the next game in a very tenuous sort of way.
Yeah. But we immediately, as a group, hit on what we wanted to do for the next one, just by sort of batting around the idea of what's happened to this abandoned train, what's going to happen with the cargo, what's going on in the cities at the moment. I think that's as much as we can say for now.
So we're, just to wrap this up, we're in a real kind of decent escalating conflict where perhaps the planet's not at war yet, but there's enough things going on.
Yeah.
It's almost like they're taking the view: is the chaos threat big enough, or should we stop mining? Well, we'll carry on mining.
Yeah.
I think that's where
there are various disturbances.
Yeah.
Rather than war at this point. And there's a lot of angles we can kind of explore. I want to know what's up with the AdMech.
I do as well. Yeah.
That's been a completely rogue element there, and it's been a completely.
I think that's
there's a story to be told there as well. So.
Well, Professor Blood.
Thanks. I've completely forgotten your name.
That's quite alright. Just another Imperium person.
What's your name?
All the same. Guy Magnum.
Shouldn't it be like fake Latin?
Well, Magnum is
Gaius Magnumus.
It should be something like that, shouldn't it? Guido Magnum. Guido. But I hope people get something out of this, because I'm certainly enjoying it, and the battle reports at the very least are there to remind me of all the good times. Right?
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay, cheers, Lyal.
Thanks, man.
Cheers.
Thanks.